They said money made the world go round. But for Aaliyah Thompson, money was a curse. Not 5 minutes ago, she was just trying to get home to her little girl, Mia, dodging the rain and the debt collectors. Now, she was crouched in a dimly lit alley, her heart hammering against her ribs like a drum solo. In her hands was a chipped coffee cup, and on the ground, a silver-haired old lady, Madam Kim, was bleeding, her expensive coat torn. Aaliyah didn't see an elderly victim, she saw a memory, a flashback to her own mother's broken face years ago. She saw red. She didn't have a gun, didn't have backup, but she had something better, street smarts. She grabbed a metal dustbin lid, screamed a Jamaican curse word that echoed off the brick walls, and charged the mugger. He turned, stunned by the sound, and that split second was all Aaliyah needed. She didn't hit him with the lid. She threw the scalding hot coffee she was holding right into his face. He screamed, clutching his eyes, and dropped the antique jade bracelet he was trying to steal. The bracelet clattered. The mugger ran. Aaliyah stood panting, the smell of burnt coffee mixing with the metallic scent of fear. She had saved the old woman, but the look on Madam Kim's face wasn't relief. It was a calculating, cold appraisal. And that's how Aaliyah stumbled, blindfolded, into the deadliest mafia family in New York City. The diner smelled like stale fries and broken dreams. Aaliyah wiped down the counter of Joe's Griddle, a place so run down the owner had given up on fixing the flickering fluorescent light years ago. Aaliyah was 26, but the exhaustion etched around her clear, wide-set brown eyes made her look older. Her skin was the color of rich cocoa, and she usually kept her thick, coily hair pulled back tight for work. Today, the uniform, a stained apron over cheap cotton tee, did nothing to hide the resilience in her shoulders. She was tough, but only because life had never given her a break. Mia needs those new shoes, Aaliyah, she muttered to herself, counting the handful of crumpled bills she'd made in tips. The shift dragged. Aaliyah lived her life in 60-second intervals, moving from one crisis to the next. Rent was due, Mia's school trip needed paying, and the landlord was threatening. Around 7 p.m., right before closing, a late customer walked in. It was Madam Kim. The woman was tiny, maybe 5 feet tall, but she walked like she owned the sidewalk and the street next to it. She wore a long, expensive-looking black coat that somehow looked silkier and fancier than anything Aaliyah had ever touched. Her face, framed by snow-white hair tied back in a severe knot, was a roadmap of wrinkles, but her eyes, dark, almond-shaped, and shockingly intense, missed nothing. She ordered green tea, which Joe's Griddle certainly didn't have. "Just coffee," Aaliyah said, trying to keep the weariness out of her voice. Madam Kim just nodded once, like Aaliyah had passed a small, unexpected test. Aaliyah got off work at 8 and was trying to hustle to the subway. It was raining, that thin, cold New York drizzle that chills you right to the bone. She was so focused on holding her old umbrella together and thinking about Mia's bedtime story that she almost walked right past the noise. It wasn't a loud noise, just a sharp, choked cry coming from the narrow space between the Chinese laundromat and a dumpster. Aaliyah hesitated. She was smart. She knew the rule of the city. Mind your business. Her neighborhood had taught her that lesson with cruel certainty. But then she heard the man's voice, rough and demanding, and the weak, panicked protest of the victim. She saw the bright flash of an antique jade bracelet being yanked off a wrist. It was Madam Kim. The mugger was a big guy, wearing a ripped hoodie, his face hidden by the shadow and the rain. He had Madam Kim pinned against the wall. This wasn't just a mugging, it was violent. The man had slapped her. Something snapped inside Aaliyah. It was the trauma of seeing her own mother hurt years ago, a deep, hot surge of anger. She didn't think about the risk. She only thought about stopping him. That's when she grabbed the dustbin lid and the cup of hot, leftover coffee intended for her subway ride. She screamed, not a woman's scream, but a deep, guttural yell. The mugger froze, looking at this small, charging figure. He was confused. Aaliyah didn't hesitate. She threw the coffee, not aiming for his body, but directly for his face. He howled, letting go of Madam Kim and the bracelet. He stumbled, rubbing his burning eyes, and then bolted, disappearing into the city night. Aaliyah dropped the lid and knelt beside Madam Kim. "Are you okay, Did he hurt you?" Aaliyah asked, her voice shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Madam Kim sat up slowly, adjusting her coat. She looked completely unharmed, though her lips were pressed into a thin, furious line. Aliyah reached out to help her up, accidentally knocking the chipped ceramic coffee cup, still containing the residue of the scalding liquid, against the woman's expensive coat. A dark, brown stain blossomed immediately on the rich black fabric. Aliyah's face went white. "Oh, God! I am so sorry. I'll pay for the cleaning. I'm so sorry." Madam Kim slowly dusted herself off, her eyes fixed not on the stain, but on Aliyah's panicked face. "You saved my life, little one," Madam Kim said, her voice gravelly but firm. "And then you ruined my favorite coat. You are chaos." Aliyah waited for the scolding, the lawsuit, the anger. Instead, Madam Kim smiled, a tiny, dangerous curve of the lips. "Chaos," Madam Kim repeated, reaching out a hand and placing it gently, possessively, on Aliyah's cheek. "Chaos is what my son needs." Madam Kim pulled out a silk handkerchief and wiped a smudge of dirt from Aliyah's chin. "My name is Kim. Han Kim," she stated, as if Aliyah should already know. "That jade bracelet, it has been in my family, the Han clan, for 300 years. You saved the Han legacy. You have Jong, deep affection and connection." Aliyah had no idea what she was talking about. I saw a lady who needed help. That's it." Madam Kim ignored her. She straightened up, suddenly looking taller than Aliyah. "You are brave, you are fast, and you have spirit. Most importantly, you are selfless. This is destiny." Madam Kim leaned in close, her intense gaze boring into Aliyah's eyes. "My son, Ji-hoon. He is the head of the Han clan. He has been broken by life, he has sworn off love, and he needs a woman who does not fear the dark. He needs you." Aliyah blinked, trying to process the revelation. Han clan. Mafia. Son. Marriage. With all respect, I have a daughter. I'm a waitress. And, what are you talking about? Marry who? Madam Kim waved a dismissive hand. Details. Mia will have 10 new pairs of shoes, and you will never wait tables again. You are my fated daughter-in-law. It is decided. Aliyah tried to back away, her mind screaming. This was crazy. This was too much. Meanwhile, 3 miles away, Ji-hoon Han was ending a conversation in a polished, soundproof private room overlooking the Hudson River. Ji-hoon was a man carved from ice and steel. In his early 30s, his sharp, handsome features were perpetually guarded by a cold indifference. He wore a perfectly tailored suit that cost more than Aliyah's yearly salary. He was black-haired, with skin the color of pale jade, and his eyes, like his mother's, were dark and held the weight of too many secrets. The rival gang wasn't interested in a warning shot. They wanted the Han clan to bleed. 1 second, Aliyah was staring at Ji-hoon, who looked like a statue carved out of beautiful, angry marble. The next, the world exploded. The grand, imported mahogany doors of the estate lobby blew inward with a splintering crash. Men in black tactical gear poured in, screaming in Russian. Ji-hoon didn't flinch. He grabbed Aliyah, spinning her behind a priceless, massive porcelain vase, his body shielding hers. The air instantly filled with the cracking sound of gunfire, so loud it made Aliyah's ears ring. The man who swore he hated her was willing to die for her. And in that terrifying, deafening moment, Aliyah realized 2 things. She was completely and hopelessly out of her depth, and Ji-hoon Han, the Mafia boss, was the first man in years who had made her feel safe. Aliyah hadn't slept. Not properly. She was still wearing the same cheap uniform when Ji-hoon's men, silent, severe men in dark suits, drove her and Mia away from the diner and into the belly of the beast. The estate was in Westchester, New York, a fortress disguised as a mansion. It was all towering gates, manicured lawns, and a main house that looked like a museum had vomited money. Mia, Aliyah's 8-year-old daughter, was wide-eyed. Mia had Aliyah's cocoa skin but had inherited a mop of tight, beautiful curls that bounced when she giggled. "Mommy, are we going to live in a castle?" Mia whispered, gripping Aliyah's hand. "It's just for a visit, baby," Aliyah lied, trying to sound calm. But she knew Madam Kim's invitations weren't optional. The first person they saw was Ji-hoon. He stood at the foot of the sweeping staircase, tall and imposing. His resentment was a physical thing, like a wall of cold air hitting Aliyah the moment she entered. He saw her and saw a complication, a mistake his mother had forced upon him. "You should not be here," he said, his voice low, controlled, and laced with acid. "Tell your mother, not me," Aliyah shot back, pulling Mia closer. "I was perfectly fine serving coffee." This direct challenge seemed to stun him for a second. He was used to obedience. The next morning, the forced induction began. Madam Kim, dressed in a stunning traditional Korean hanbok, summoned Aliyah for a formal tea ceremony. The room was sparse, filled with expensive wood and the quiet scent of incense. "You must learn respect, Aliyah," Madam Kim instructed, her voice softening slightly as she looked at Mia, who was quietly drawing in the corner. The wife of the Han patriarch must know tradition. Aliyah was given a delicate porcelain cup and instructed on the complex, slow-motion ritual of pouring, bowing, and presenting the tea. Aliyah, who was used to pouring coffee in paper cups while yelling next, found the deliberate pace agony. She was sweating. Her anxiety was skyrocketing. She looked up at Madam Kim for confirmation, but her eyes flickered over to Ji-hoon, who stood by the door, arms crossed, watching the whole thing with cruel, silent judgment. "He thinks I'm trash," Aliyah thought, and that thought made her hands tremble. As she attempted the final, deep bow, her knee hit the low table. The tiny teapot went flying. Hot tea splashed everywhere, not only on the immaculate floor, but a few drops landed right on Ji-hoon's pristine shoe. Aliyah gasped. Silence. Madam Kim looked from the mess to Aliyah, but surprisingly, her lips twitched. "See, Ji-hoon. She is like a storm. Always moving. Always spilling. She will shatter your composure." Ji-hoon only looked at Aliyah. His eyes held a flicker of something she couldn't read, annoyance, yes, but also a sliver of bewildered interest. She was utterly unlike the quiet, compliant women in his world. Later that day, Aliyah found Ji-hoon alone in a library, staring out a large window at the rain. This was the moment for the confrontation. "I won't marry you," Aliyah stated simply. "I don't belong here, and you clearly hate me. Let me go." Ji-hoon turned. His face was cold, but his eyes were ancient with pain. "It doesn't matter what we want. My mother saved my life once, and I owe her this obedience. This arrangement protects the clan." "Why do you hate love so much?" Aliyah pressed. "It's practically coming off you like heat." He tensed. "You know nothing about me." "I know hurt," Aliyah said softly, her own voice carrying the weight of her tough upbringing. "You hide behind this suit, but I can see it." He took a step closer, towering over her. "The woman I was meant to marry died 5 years ago. Because of the clan. Because of me. Love is a weakness I cannot afford. So, you will be my wife in name only. You will be safe, and you will be quiet." He didn't know Aliyah couldn't do quiet. While Madam Kim and Aliyah fought over Kim Kai and chopstick etiquette, Mia had already bonded with the matriarch. Mia was fascinated by Madam Kim's beautiful clothes and stories of Korea. One afternoon, Aliyah went searching for Mia near the storage rooms. She pushed open a door and found herself in a dusty, dimly lit annex that was absolutely packed with crates. She wasn't interested in the crates until she saw something glinting beneath a ripped canvas. A large, ancient-looking Korean scroll, exquisitely painted, wrapped in silk. Aliyah had studied history in community college before she had to drop out to work. She knew that scroll was genuine, and it was old. She moved a few boxes and saw markings on the crates, not shipping labels, but codes. She looked closer and realized she was staring at dozens of crates filled with artifacts, historical treasures, pieces of Korean history that should be in a museum, not a mafia basement. She backed away, realizing the price of this new safe life was being complicit in a massive criminal operation. The weight of her moral dilemma instantly crushed the relief of security. That evening, Aliyah watched Madam Kim teaching Mia how to make a paper crane. Madam Kim, the iron-fisted mafia boss, was laughing, a genuine, warm sound Aliyah never thought she would hear. "Your grandmother is so cool, Mommy," Mia said, hugging the matriarch. Madam Kim looked at Aliyah, her face softening into a genuine expression of affection. Mia is brilliant. She reminds me of myself. She gives me light. Mia was the key. Madam Kim's love for Mia was the emotional leverage that cemented Alia's forced place in the family, despite Ji-hoon's resistance. Alia could never leave now. Mia was safe, happy, and adored. The lavish estate was quiet, bathed in the expensive silence of wealth. Alia was in the library, staring at a small, strange symbol carved into the bottom of a nearby crate, thinking about the artifacts. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died. A chilling, mechanical sound ripped through the silence, followed by the terrifying sound of shattering glass from the front of the house. K-crack! A voice boomed, loud and guttural, speaking Russian that Ji-hoon's men instantly translated. "Tell the hand dog Ji-hoon, the Volkovs are here for the territory." Ji-hoon burst into the library, his cold demeanor replaced by lethal focus. He was holding a handgun. Small, efficient, terrifyingly real. He didn't look at the gun. He looked at Alia. "Get down!" he yelled, shoving her with brutal force behind the ancient porcelain vase. Before Alia could protest, the front doors exploded. Shards of mahogany and plaster rained down. Ji-hoon moved, covering Alia completely, his body an unyielding shield. Gunfire erupted, screaming through the house. "Stay behind me!" Ji-hoon commanded, his breath hot against her ear. Alia heard the heavy footsteps approaching, the sound of men who meant to kill. The man who hated her was now her only defense against a war she never asked for. He wasn't talking about stocks or real estate, he was talking about territory. A rival gang, the Volkov brothers, had started encroaching on the Han clan's illegal gambling operations in Queens. "Send a message," Ji-hoon said, his voice flat, emotionless. "Nothing permanent yet. Just enough fear so they remember the cost of disrespect." A man named Jun, Ji-hoon's second-in-command, nodded quickly. Jun knew better than to ask questions. Ji-hoon ruled through rigid control. He had built his world into a fortress after the death of his fiancée 5 years ago, sealing his heart shut. Love was a liability. Family was power. Ji-hoon was pulling into the alley near the diner, alerted by a panicked member of his security detail who had been lagging behind Madam Kim. He drove a black, intimidating sedan that looked like it could shrug off bullets. He was furious. His mother, the matriarch of the Han clan, running around New York alone? Unacceptable. He saw the flashing blue light of a responding police car down the street, standard procedure after an incident, and his mother, standing under the remaining flicker of the diner sign. But his eyes didn't land on his mother. They landed on the woman standing opposite her. Alia. She was wet, messy, and dressed in cheap work clothes, but there was a fierce, wild spark in her eyes that Ji-hoon hadn't seen in anyone in years. Her dark skin shone under the dim light, and she was arguing with his mother, her hand gesturing wildly. Ji-hoon stepped out of the car, slamming the door shut with a heavy sound that usually stopped all conversations. His face was a mask of cold anger, ready to unleash his fury on his reckless mother. Madam Kim turned, saw her son, and smiled victoriously. "Ji-hoon, meet your future wife. This is Alia." Alia spun around, her eyes meeting his. In that moment, a million thoughts flashed through Ji-hoon's mind. Fury, confusion, and an overwhelming, utterly inexplicable pull toward the chaos and resilience written all over her face. He was the most controlled man in New York, yet his world had just tilted on its axis because of a coffee-slinging waitress. The sound of the gunshots was gone, but the fear still clung to the air like smoke. Alia didn't know how Ji-hoon had survived the Volkov attack, but he had. He had moved with a deadly, efficient grace she never expected, neutralizing the threat with terrifying speed. Now, the estate was safe, but the biggest danger was right in front of her. Ji-hoon was teaching her self-defense in a cavernous, mirrored gym in the basement. He grabbed her wrist, his grip iron, trying to show her how to escape a hold. As she fought, pushing against his chest, their eyes locked. His breath hitched, a tiny, involuntary gasp. For a second, the cold mask slipped, and Alia didn't see the feared Mafia boss. She saw a man drowning in grief. It was the crack in his perfect control that did it. He leaned in, his gaze dropping to her lips. She could feel the warmth of his body, the dangerous pull between them. The air was thick, charged. Aaliyah closed her eyes, ready for the kiss that would change everything. But then, a sharp, buzzing sound cut through the silence. Her phone. The caller ID flashed a name that instantly brought Aaliyah back to her worst life. Devon. Mia's deadbeat father. After the attack, Madam Kim declared Aaliyah a security liability. "You must fight, or you will die," she stated simply. Ji-hoon, still furious about the whole arrangement, was forced to be Aaliyah's reluctant self-defense coach. The training was a comedy of errors. Aaliyah was strong, but clumsy. In the mirrored gym, she tried to punch the heavy bag, but twisted her ankle instead. She tried to block a simple wrist grab, but ended up tumbling over Ji-hoon's foot. "You move like a newborn calf," Ji-hoon sighed, running a hand over his face. He was in simple, dark athletic gear, and without his tailor-made suit, he looked younger, more dangerous. "I move like a waitress with 2 jobs who hasn't slept in 3 years. Aaliyah shot back. "I'm good at avoiding trouble, not fighting it." He showed her a move again, grabbing her by the shoulders to turn her. This time, Aaliyah didn't panic. She focused on the motion, twisting her hips, and surprisingly, she used his momentum to flip his grip. She didn't throw him, but she did manage to break free. A fleeting look of surprise crossed his face. "Not bad," he conceded. It was the highest praise Aaliyah had ever heard from him. The small win felt empowering, but the physical closeness was electric. Later, during a stakeout in a dark surveillance van, tracking the Volkovs, Aaliyah found the courage to ask about his dead fiancé. "It's not just loyalty to your mother," Aaliyah said, watching his profile in the faint blue glow of the screens. "It's guilt. You think you deserved to lose her." Ji-hoon gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. After a long, heavy silence, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper, thick with unshared grief. "Her name was Sora," he said. "She was not my fiancée. She was my little sister." Aaliyah gasped, the revelation hitting her like a punch. "Your sister." "But Madam Kim said." "My mother changes the story to protect the family. She was killed 5 years ago. A bullet meant for me. A betrayal from inside the clan." His jaw locked. "I vowed then that nothing I cared about would ever come close enough to be hurt again." The truth wasn't about failed romance. It was about crushing, existential guilt. Aaliyah suddenly understood the depth of his armor. The shared truth created an unexpected bond. The romantic tension that had been simmering finally boiled over in the cramped space of the surveillance van. Aaliyah reached out, hesitantly, and placed her hand over his white-knuckled grip on the wheel. "It wasn't your fault, Ji-hoon." He slowly turned his head. His dark eyes searched hers, and Aaliyah saw the desperate loneliness behind the rage. He leaned in, closing the gap. This wasn't the cold, demanded arrangement. This was 2 broken people reaching for a sliver of warmth in the dark. Their lips were inches apart. Aaliyah could smell the faint, clean scent of his expensive cologne. BZZZZ. BZZZZ. Aaliyah's cheap cell phone vibrated violently, shattering the moment. It was Devon, Mia's deadbeat father who hadn't paid child support or seen his daughter in 3 years. Aaliyah pulled back, instantly replacing passion with dread. She answered, her voice tight. "Devon, what do you want?" "I heard you hit the jackpot, Aaliyah." Devon's oily voice slithered through the phone. "New house, security guards. I'm cleaning up my life. I want my daughter back. I'm suing for full custody." Aaliyah hung up, trembling. The problems of the Mafia were suddenly less terrifying than the threat to her daughter. Ji-hoon watched the fear grip her, his face softening with a protective instinct he rarely showed. "Who was that?" he demanded. "The one person who can hurt me more than your enemies ever could," Aaliyah whispered, clutching her phone. The next day, Aaliyah was cleaning up one of Mia's toys in Madam Kim's ridiculously opulent private study. Mia had charmed her way into the room, and Aaliyah was trying to be invisible. She noticed a small, antique, silver locket tucked beneath a stack of Korean history books. It wasn't ornate or flashy. It looked loved. Aaliyah felt a pang of guilt, but her curiosity was overwhelming. She clicked it open. Inside, there was a faded, black and white photo. It was of a young woman, beaming into the camera. She had Aaliyah's exact nose and high cheekbones. She was black, with the same deep-set, wide eyes. She looked eerily like Aaliyah's own mother when she was young. Aaliyah's heart hammered a frantic rhythm. Who was this woman? Why did Madam Kim, the Korean Mafia matriarch, have a photo of a black woman who looked so much like her? The only thing Aaliyah knew about her own father was that he was a ghost. This wasn't just fate. This felt like a carefully constructed plan, generations in the making. That afternoon, Aaliyah was distracted, trying to piece together the locket's mystery. Ji-hoon was away, called to an urgent meeting about the Volkov retaliation. Jun, Ji-hoon's trusted second-in-command, was talking quietly on the phone near the main gate. Aaliyah didn't mean to eavesdrop, but she heard him speak in a low, panicked tone. The matriarch is protecting the girl's child. I told you, she is the key. You have to take the daughter now. While he is gone. Jun wasn't talking to Ji-hoon. He was talking to the enemy. Aaliyah's blood ran cold. The betrayal, the mole, it was Jun. The man Ji-hoon trusted most. She scrambled to find Mia, who was playing in the greenhouse. But before she could reach her, the lights in the greenhouse flickered and then went dark. The heavy glass door slammed shut from the outside. Aaliyah beat on the glass, screaming Mia's name. She could hear Mia's tiny, scared cry from the darkness inside. From the glass, Aaliyah saw a shadow, a large, masked figure, reaching for her daughter. The air was thick with panic, but Ji-hoon wasn't panicked. He was terrifying. He knew the moment the power went out that his mother's most trusted man, Jun, had betrayed them. He raced from the main gate, not toward the armory, but straight toward the greenhouse. When he found Aaliyah pounding on the glass, screaming, and the huge, masked figure reaching for Mia inside, the control he so meticulously maintained snapped. He didn't use a gun. He used pure, furious muscle. He smashed the glass door with a single, armored boot, sending shards flying. Before the kidnapper could even turn, Ji-hoon was on him. He moved like a striking snake, not a man, delivering a brutal, clinical strike that dropped the attacker instantly. He scooped up Mia, shaking but unharmed, and handed her to Aaliyah. He was covered in sweat, glass, and righteous anger. Aaliyah didn't care about the danger, the drama, or the mafia. She only cared that he had saved her child. She grabbed his face, pulled him down, and kissed him, a desperate, raw kiss of pure gratitude and relief. Aaliyah held Mia so tightly she thought her arms might break. Mia was crying, but she was safe. Ji-hoon stood over them, his chest heaving. His dark hair was slicked with sweat, and a thin line of blood ran down his arm from a glass shard. You're okay, he said to Mia, his voice rougher than usual. He didn't look at Aaliyah. Aaliyah pulled back, her fear melting into overwhelming emotion. She didn't think about the rules or the arrangement. She just knew this ruthless, cold man had risked everything for her daughter. I love you, Ji-hoon, she confessed, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. They were clumsy, raw, and completely real. Ji-hoon froze. The cold armor cracked completely. He stared at her, his expression a mixture of shock and desperate, painful longing. He hadn't expected passion, he expected fear. He didn't say it back. He couldn't. Instead, he gripped her shoulders. Never trust anyone here, Aaliyah. Especially not the ones who smile. The capture of the kidnapper confirmed Aaliyah's suspicions. Jun, the loyal second-in-command, was the mole. Ji-hoon handled the betrayal swiftly, cleanly, and silently. Later that morning, the elders of the Han clan, severe men and women dressed in somber black, gathered in the central hall to discuss the internal breach. Aaliyah, now protected fiercely by Madam Kim, was forced to attend. Ji-hoon stood before the elders, detailing the immediate threat, the Volkovs, and their former friend, Minitsu. Minitsu is behind this, Ji-hoon announced, his voice carrying lethal authority. He supplied the intel. He is the cancer we must cut out. Suddenly, the doors burst open. It was Minitsu, the rival gang leader, flanked by 4 massive bodyguards. He wasn't afraid. I'm the cancer. Minitsu laughed, his voice ringing with bitter resentment. You took everything, Ji-hoon. I didn't just give the Volkovs the info about your sister, Sora. I told them where to find her. Silence gripped the room. Ji-hoon's face went rigid. Sora's death was revenge, Minitsa hissed, pointing a finger at Ji-hoon. Revenge for you stealing the family business I deserved. Now, I'll take your new woman and the prophecy she brings. The meeting spiraled into chaos, but Aliyah noticed one of Minitsu's men eyeing her strangely. When Ji-hoon ordered the man to be detained, Aliyah physically tried to stop the man from grabbing a hidden weapon. They struggled. The fabric of Aliyah's sleeve ripped cleanly at the shoulder seam. Underneath the tear, clearly visible to the stern, judging eyes of the Han clan elders, was a small, faded tattoo, a stylized, black crescent moon. Aliyah had gotten it years ago, a foolish act of youthful rebellion during her time in a minor street gang in Brooklyn. It wasn't a mafia symbol, but it was a mark of the streets, a stain of the past she had desperately tried to leave behind. The elders gasped, whispering in Korean. Madam Kim's expression hardened. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened in anger and deep frustration. Aliyah felt the blood rush from her face. She was exposed, humiliated, her working class, rough past suddenly laid bare for this elite criminal family to judge. The elders were demanding Aliyah be removed. Madam Kim, however, silenced them with a single, icy look. She then did the most unexpected thing. She confessed. Silence. All of you, Madam Kim commanded. She looked directly at a pale, shaking Aliyah. The mugging, Madam Kim started, her voice heavy with unexpected emotion. It was not accidental. I arranged it. Aliyah blinked, stunned. What? I heard the whispers, Madam Kim admitted. A prophecy passed down through the Han family for 3 centuries. That the clan would one day face total collapse from within, and only a dark guardian, a protector from the outside, marked by fire and earth, not blood, could save us. Aliyah remembered the coffee, the fire, the dirt from the alley, the earth. I needed a test, Madam Kim continued, her eyes glistening. I needed someone who reacted with courage, not calculation. Your street smarts, your passion, the chaos you brought, it proved the prophecy true. I orchestrated the mugging to find you, Aliyah. You are the guardian. You are the key to saving my son and this family. The emotional weight of the revelation, that her fate was a calculated setup based on an ancient prophecy, nearly buckled Aliyah's knees. The meeting was adjourned, the elders reeling from the prophecy and Minitsu's brazen threat. Ji-hoon found Aliyah alone in the garden, standing beneath a massive oak tree. He wasn't angry about the tattoo anymore. He was just intensely focused. My mother is crazy, Ji-hoon said, standing close to her, but he didn't contradict the prophecy. But she is right about one thing. You are the only person who hasn't lied to me, and you're the only person who can keep this family standing. I need you. He reached into the inner pocket of his coat and pulled out a small, velvet box. He didn't drop to one knee, he was too controlled for that, but his dark eyes were desperate. This is not an arrangement anymore, he said, opening the box to reveal a stunning, delicate vintage diamond ring that looked ancient and precious. I want to marry you, Aliyah. For real. Because I don't want to live in the dark without you anymore. Aliyah stared at the ring, her heart tearing in 2 directions. She wanted to say yes, to embrace the safety and passion he offered. But then she remembered Devon, her ex, and his chilling threat to take Mia. If she married Ji-hoon, she would pull her daughter permanently into this war, ensuring Devon's threats had real power. Ji-hoon waited, his fate hanging on her answer. Aliyah looked from the ring to his desperate face, then back to the memory of Devon's cruel smile. I can't, Aliyah whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. I can't say yes, not while he is threatening Mia. It puts her in too much danger. Aliyah was alone in the quiet, windowless computer lab of the Han estate, staring at a grainy, old photo on the screen. The image showed 2 men standing next to a crate stamped with the Han clan logo. One was a young, sharp-featured Korean man. The other, the shock was visceral, a blow to the gut, was her father. Her absent ghost of a father. He was young, black, smiling, and clearly part of the criminal operation that defined her new life. Suddenly, a new message popped up on the encrypted screen. The sender ID was a series of random characters. The message itself was simple, terrifying, and utterly impossible. Stop looking into the past. Ji-hoon's sister, Sora, is alive. I can help you, but you must lie to him. Aaliyah's hand flew to her mouth. Sora was dead. Ji-hoon had mourned her for 5 years. Yet, here was a message, right now, from the dead woman, who was apparently a spy for the enemy. The entire foundation of Ji-hoon's grief and Aaliyah's entry into this dangerous world was a carefully constructed lie. Aaliyah's refusal of the proposal didn't kill the romance. It hardened Ji-hoon's resolve. He promised to protect Mia from Devon's custody threats, but Aaliyah knew she needed her own power. She sought out In-ho, a young, loyal Han Clan underling who looked like a college kid but was actually a genius hacker. He wore thick-rimmed glasses and was constantly tapping away on a keyboard. I need you to dig into the old smuggling logs, Aaliyah instructed, sitting across from him in his cluttered tech room. Specifically, the 1990s. I'm looking for a black man who worked with the clan. In-ho was hesitant. That is classified, Aaliyah. It's a death wish. It's my life, she countered, showing him the locket she'd found in Madam Kim's room, the one with the photo of the black woman who looked like her mother. I need to know who I am and why your boss's mother has a photo of my family. In-ho, swayed by her honesty and her protective instincts toward Mia, agreed. They formed a secret alliance against the dangerous truth. In-ho worked fast. A day later, he showed Aaliyah the old clan smuggling manifests. There, listed as a logistics coordinator, was the name Marcus Thompson. My father, Aaliyah whispered, staring at the grainy photo of the black man next to the young Korean man. He wasn't just absent, he was part of this. A smuggler. The emotional blow was immense. Her past wasn't just poor, it was criminal, connected to the very organization she was trying to escape. Her mother had lied to protect her, painting her father as simply gone, not a gang operative. While Aaliyah was dealing with Mafia secrets, Mia was dealing with elementary school drama. She had quickly befriended Seo-jun, the quiet, sharp son of a low-ranking but loyal clan accountant. Mia, with her bouncy curls and loud confidence, instantly developed a massive crush on Seo-jun. One afternoon, Mia was describing a complicated Korean fairy tale that Madam Kim had told her, stumbling over the names. Seo-jun gently corrected her pronunciation. Mia, feeling embarrassed, got defensive. Well, your shoes are ugly, she blurted out, covering her face. Aaliyah had to intervene, trying to handle the fallout of a ruined school project and a bruised third-grade ego. It was a bizarre, cute, but awkward kid drama that provided a brief, grounding respite from the life-or-death stakes. Aaliyah and In-ho's research into the 1990s smuggling logs kept bringing up disturbing details about the cargo. Ancient Korean artifacts, specifically ornate boxes and carved jade figures. In-ho showed her a file. There are records of 3 accidents related to these specific shipments. One man lost his mind, one fell down a flight of stairs, and one combusted in a fire. The elders call the artifacts cursed. Aaliyah shivered. They're just objects, In-ho. Tell that to the last man who touched the box of whispers and immediately drove his car into a lake, In-ho replied. The incidents were causing a surge of paranoia among the older, more superstitious clan members. Aaliyah realized the Han clan wasn't just dealing in valuable history. They were dealing in dark, unexplained forces. It was late when Aaliyah got the second message from the anonymous contact. She was on a burner laptop that In-ho had provided. The message read, Minitsu didn't kill me. The Volkovs hid me. I am their agent. I need your help to expose the real betrayal in the clan before Minitsu kills Ji-hoon. Meet me at the old shipping yard, Pier 12, tonight. Do not tell Ji-hoon. He is still too loyal to the past. The emotional gut punch of the realization was paralyzing. Sora, the sister Ji-hoon risked his life for, the reason for his emotional shell, was alive. Worse, she was working for his enemy, Minitsu. And she was asking Aaliyah, the woman he just confessed to betray him. Aaliyah felt sick. She loved Ji-hoon, but if Sora was right and Ji-hoon was clinging to a loyalty that was actively harming him, she had to make a choice. Protect him by obeying Sora, or trust him with the impossible truth. Aliyah sent a tentative, coded message back to Sora's contact, agreeing to the meeting. As she was wiping the laptop clean, Inho rushed into the room, his glasses askew, looking terrified. "Aliyah, stop," he whispered, pointing frantically at a different screen, a record of old clan bank transfers and hidden offshore accounts. "I found something. Something Ji-hoon hid even from his mother." He scrolled through an encrypted file titled SL Trust. "Look at the beneficiary," Inho urged. Aliyah leaned in, her eyes scanning the complex financial documents. The recipient of a large, monthly, anonymous wire transfer was listed as Sarah Lee, guardian of the minor, J.H. Han. Aliyah stared at the name of the minor. J.H. Han. Ji-hoon. Aliyah breathed. "Does Ji-hoon have a secret son?" Inho nodded, his eyes wide. "The transfers have been going out monthly for 7 years. He has a secret family. The sister is alive, and Ji-hoon has a child he's hiding." The weight of the betrayal and the depth of Ji-hoon's secrets crushed Aliyah. He had asked her to marry him, yet he had a hidden child who was the true blood heir to the Han clan. The glass of champagne slid out of Aliyah's suddenly slick hand, shattering on the polished marble floor. She didn't notice the noise. She was staring at the man who had just grabbed her arm, the rival gang boss, Minitsu. Minitsu's face, usually contorted by hatred, was now twisted with a bizarre, sickening familiarity. "Did you really think your father was just a ghost, Aliyah?" he hissed, pulling her close, away from the glittering crowd at the Han clan gala. "We share more than just the same tailor, little sister. I know your father was an embarrassment. That's why I took his place. And yes, darling, I am him. I am Marcus Thompson. Minitsu is just the name I use when I'm taking everything Ji-hoon loves. And that includes you." The revelation was a dizzying, sickening blow. Aliyah wasn't just fated to be in the Mafia. She was the daughter of the enemy, making her Mia's half-sister and the half-sister of the man currently trying to murder her fiancé. The revelation that Ji-hoon had a secret son, Jae-won, hit Aliyah harder than any bullet. She confronted Ji-hoon in the privacy of his study immediately, tossing the bank records onto his mahogany desk. "You asked me to marry you, Ji-hoon," Aliyah whispered, her voice shaking with betrayal. "You have a son. You have a whole life you hid from me." Ji-hoon's face was etched with pain, but not guilt. "Jae-won is my son," he admitted softly. "He was born right after Sora died. His mother, Sarah Lee, was my childhood friend. She raised him in secret in Canada to protect him from the clan war that killed Sora. He is safe. And he is irrelevant to us." Irrelevant. Aliyah swallowed the bitter word. She still couldn't trust him, but she saw the fear in his eyes, the same protective instinct she felt for Mia. The crisis arrived a few days later during a major Han clan charity gala. The entire New York underground elite was there. Ji-hoon was greeting guests when a handsome, stony-faced teenager with Ji-hoon's exact intensity marched through the crowd. "Father," the teen announced loudly, creating a hush. It was Jae-won, brought back by Sarah Lee after hearing of the proposed marriage. Jae-won marched right up to Aliyah and Mia. "You think you can take our family, Waitress?" he demanded, looking down his nose at Aliyah. He had his father's clothes, his father's pride, and none of his father's restraint. The public argument was instantly embarrassing. Mia, used to defending her mother, shot back, "My mom spills coffee, not blood. You're the one trying to break up a family." The tension was immediate, the biological son versus the fated daughter and her street-smart child. The pressure cooker of betrayal, custody threats, and the presence of the jealous son pushed Aliyah and Ji-hoon to a breaking point. After the tense gala, they retreated to Ji-hoon's private wing. The simmering tension finally exploded into passion. No words were exchanged, only desperate energy. They didn't make love, they collided, a desperate attempt to find safety and truth in each other's arms away from the lies that defined their lives. It was raw, honest, and completely reckless. The next morning, the guilt was heavy. Aliyah was lying next to the man who was keeping a child from her, while she was withholding the information that his dead sister was alive and spying for his greatest enemy. The steamy night did not solve their problems, it just complicated their already fractured loyalties. The quiet was shattered by the alarm blaring throughout the estate. Minitsu had abandoned all subtlety. He wasn't sending assassins. He was launching a full-scale assault on the Han headquarters. Ji-hoon sprang into action, replacing the lover with the ruthless boss. He directed his men, shouting commands in Korean, his face a hard mask. Aliyah, now trained and empowered, didn't run. She grabbed Mia and Jae-won, shoving them into the reinforced panic room. "Stay here, both of you," she ordered, her voice firm. "We fight the people trying to hurt our family, not each other." As she secured the door, she saw Minitsu leading the charge across the lawn, his men firing wildly. Ji-hoon met him head-on near the main fountain. The fighting was brutal, hand-to-hand, a messy, violent clash of rival gangs. Aliyah watched the battle from a slit in the panic room window. She saw Ji-hoon and Minitsu lock eyes, not just as rivals, but as figures fueled by deep personal hatred. Then, Minitsu spotted Aliyah watching. He broke away from the fighting and yelled across the courtyard, loud enough for Aliyah to hear, loud enough to cut through the gunfire. "Ask your mother about Marcus Thompson." Minitsu roared at Aliyah. "She was saving you from me, but I found you. I am Marcus. I am your father, Aliyah. We share the same black blood, and you will bow to the Volkovs." The sound of the gunfire faded into a dizzying white noise. The man she hated, the man who murdered Ji-hoon's sister, the enemy of the clan, was her father. Her father wasn't just a former smuggler. He was the head of the rival organization. Aliyah staggered back, leaning against the cold wall. She wasn't just connected to the Mafia. She was genetically tied to the very source of the war. Her blood was fractured, half Han, half Volkov. Ji-hoon, who heard Minitsu's shocking claim, lunged at his enemy with renewed, primal fury. The fighting was now desperate. Inside the compound, the clan elders heard the public revelation. Betrayal instantly flashed across their faces. The woman the matriarch had chosen, the Dark Guardian, was the daughter of the enemy. Aliyah rushed out of the panic room, not toward Ji-hoon, but toward her mother-in-law, who was watching the scene from a balcony. "Did you know?" Aliyah demanded, tears streaming down her face. "Did you know my father was Minitsu?" Madam Kim didn't answer. She only looked at Aliyah, her face a mask of disappointment and terrible realization. The fighting continued below. Minitsu was retreating, but he had done his damage. As Madam Kim stood on the balcony, staring at the chaos below and the heartbroken face of her fated daughter-in-law, she suddenly clutched her chest. Her face, usually so composed, went sickly pale. She stumbled, grabbing the railing. "The box of whispers," she rasped, her eyes wide with terror. "The artifacts. They are cursed. They are attacking the clan." She fixed her terrified gaze on Aliyah, the daughter of the enemy, who had brought in the chaos, the blood, and the dark connections. "You!" Madam Kim screamed, her voice weak and shaking before she collapsed to the floor, unconscious. "You brought the curse upon us." The choice was impossible. Aliyah stood in a warehouse on Pier 12, the same place where she was supposed to meet Sora, staring at her biological father, Minitsu. The man who had orchestrated her fiancée's sister's death, the one who tried to kidnap her daughter. He wasn't yelling. He was calmly negotiating. "You're Marcus Thompson's daughter, Aliyah," Minitsu said, his voice smooth and dangerous. "You belong with me. We offer you Mia's total safety, wealth, and freedom from the Han clan's madness. All you have to do is tell me where they moved the cursed artifacts. Give me the key, and you walk away clean." He extended his hand, the same hand that had just hours ago tried to ruin her life. Aliyah looked at his face, seeing the cruel resemblance to herself, and then she thought of Ji-hoon's desperate eyes, and Mia's happy smile under Madam Kim's protection. She knew she was standing at the edge of the abyss. She didn't hesitate. "I'm a Han now," she spat. "You will never touch my family." Aliyah had risked everything to meet her father. She had slipped out of the estate while Ji-hoon was dealing with the cleanup of the assault. Minitsu, her father, Marcus Thompson, was exactly as Ji-hoon described, ruthless, but with a cunning charm. He explained his life. A Korean immigrant who married Aliyah's mother was discarded by Madam Kim's generation of the Han clan, and swore vengeance by joining their main rival, the Volkovs, adopting the name Minitsu. Your mother left me because she was weak, not because I was bad, Minitsu claimed, pacing the warehouse floor. Ji-hoon's mother destroyed our family. I'm just taking what's owed. You're my insurance, Aliyah. Your blood belongs with me. He laid out the deal, permanent safety for Mia and her, and enough money to disappear forever. All she had to do was leak the location of the clan's most precious, ancient artifacts, the cursed ones, which Minitsu desperately wanted. Aliyah listened, feeling the terrifying allure of easy safety. But she knew that safety built on betrayal would poison her heart forever. Back at the estate, Madam Kim was stabilized but weak. The clan called an emergency dinner. It was tense, silent, and thick with accusation. Then, the curse began to manifest. One of the elders, a stern man named Mr. Park, suddenly began laughing maniacally, then screamed that his wife was stealing his money. Another, a woman, confessed loudly that she hated Madam Kim's tea ceremony lessons. Then, Ji-hoon started shifting nervously in his seat. His face went pale, his eyes wide, looking at Aliyah. I can't. Ji-hoon suddenly gasped, covering his face. I can't promise forever. I still see Sora's face when I look at you, Aliyah. I'm afraid I'll fail again. I'm afraid of loving you, because then the darkness will take you too. The table went silent. Ji-hoon's deepest, most humiliating fear of commitment was laid bare in front of his family and the woman he loved. Aliyah didn't feel angry. She felt heartbreak and understanding. The curse wasn't making them lie. It was forcing them to speak the painful, hidden truths they kept locked away. As the chaos escalated, a silent figure slipped into the dining hall. It was Sora. Sora looked fragile, dressed in simple civilian clothes, but her eyes held a desperate resolve. It's not a curse, Mother, Sora said, rushing to Madam Kim's side. The entire room erupted in shock. Sora was alive. Sora pointed to a delicate, shimmering powder residue on the edge of Madam Kim's teacup. It's poison. A slow-acting nerve agent disguised as a traditional herb. Sora then pointed to Madam Kim's most trusted advisor, a quiet woman named Hae-jin. Hae-jin is the mole. Sora announced, her voice shaking. She betrayed me 5 years ago, feeding information to Minitsu. She has been poisoning Mother slowly for weeks, trying to destabilize the clan so Minitsu can take the assets. Ji-hoon, his own betrayal confession now forgotten, moved with lightning speed, tackling the advisor. Hae-jin screamed, confirming Sora's truth. Sora looked at her brother, tears streaming down her face. I went into hiding and pretended to work for Minitsu because I couldn't trust anyone here. I had to find the true mole. The immediate danger of the poison and the identity of the true mole forced Ji-hoon and Aliyah to reconcile. Ji-hoon looked at Aliyah, his face still pale from his fear confession, but now resolute. I was afraid, he admitted, pulling her close. But I would rather face fear than lose you. I forgive you for hiding the truth about my sister. She is alive, and that is all that matters. Aliyah looked at him, then at Mia, safe in the corner with a miraculously revived Sora. She thought of Minitsu's offer of easy, quiet freedom. She thought of the love, the chaos, and the broken, dangerous family she had found here. She realized she couldn't betray the love that saved her and her daughter. She had to choose. She turned to Sora. My father is Minitsu. I won't betray the hands. I choose my family here. The declaration was powerful, final, and full of emotional depth. Aliyah chose the messy, dangerous loyalty of love over the easy safety of blood. The true mole was captured, the sister was returned, and loyalties were finally aligned. But the crisis was far from over. Minitsu knew Aliyah had rejected his offer and that his mole was exposed. Before the clan could secure the estate, Minitsu launched the final, devastating gang war. He mobilized every asset. Explosions rocked the foundations of the mansion. The main hall, already damaged, was flooded with Volkov soldiers. Ji-hoon kissed Aliyah hard, a desperate promise. Stay with Mia and J1. Don't come out. He raced into the fray, fighting side by side with Sora, finally avenging her death. Aliyah, however, knew she couldn't hide. She saw a Volkov soldier breaking into the panic room where the children were hidden. She had to intercept him. She grabbed a heavy candelabra, a new, lethal application of her street smarts, and attacked the soldier, managing to knock him down. But he wasn't alone. 2 more men grabbed her from behind, their grip too strong. "The boss wants her alive," one yelled in Russian. "She is the key to the artifacts." Aliyah fought, kicking and struggling, screaming Ji-hoon's name as they dragged her out of the compound and into the back of a waiting van. Her fate was now sealed. Aliyah was blindfolded, her hands bound tightly behind her back. She was chained to a cold pipe in a dusty, dimly lit basement that smelled of old gasoline and bitter revenge. Minitsu, her father, stood over her, holding the ancient, cursed box of whispers. "You chose the hands," he sneered. "Now you will watch them burn." But just as he started to pry open the box, the air above them split with the sound of a roaring explosion. The ground shook violently, raining plaster dust. Minitsu looked up, his face paling with fear. "Ji-hoon," he whispered. Aliyah heard the pounding of heavy boots, then the sound of splintering metal as the security door was ripped off its hinges. Ji-hoon stood silhouetted in the doorway, covered in soot and blood, looking like a vengeful god. He didn't speak. He leveled a weapon and fired, not at Minitsu, but at the chains binding Aliyah. The metal snapped. Aliyah was free, and the final war had begun. Ji-hoon had tracked the Volkov van using the secret GPS chip Sora had hidden on the clan's vehicles years ago. He arrived at the abandoned warehouse, Minitsu's base of operations, with Sora and a handful of loyal Han enforcers. This wasn't a strategic takeover. It was a personal rescue mission fueled by pure, desperate love. The fight was brutal and fast. Ji-hoon moved with a deadly precision Aliyah had only seen glimpses of. He was fighting not for territory or pride, but for the woman who had brought light back into his dark life. Sora, fighting alongside him, was driven by the long-awaited vengeance against Minitsu, the man who had orchestrated her death. Aliyah, now freed, used her street smarts. She didn't rely on guns. She used the chaos. She tripped Minitsu's guards, shoved crates in their paths, and yelled commands to Ji-hoon in English, distracting the enemy. The climax came when Ji-hoon and Minitsu faced each other over the cursed artifacts. Minitsu, blinded by greed, tried to stab Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon blocked the blow, then turned the momentum, driving Minitsu against a support beam. "You took my sister, you tried to take my son, and you tried to take my heart." Ji-hoon roared, his voice raw. Minitsu laughed, coughing blood. "It was fate, boy. I gave you the Dark Guardian." Aliyah looked at the source of all the pain, the box of whispers and the other ancient, supposedly cursed artifacts. She grabbed a sledgehammer left by the workers and, with a fierce cry of finality, she smashed the ornate boxes to pieces. The others gasped. These were priceless historical treasures. "They're not treasures," Aliyah screamed, panting. "They're just excuses for greed. They only hold power if we believe the curse." As the wood and jade crumbled, the paranoia and fear gripping the clan instantly lifted. The curse was broken forever. The fight lost its purpose. With the artifacts destroyed and Minitsu subdued, the Volkov gang surrendered. Back at the estate, now heavily damaged but safe, the subplots began to converge. First, Mia's custody. Ji-hoon used the evidence provided by Sora, proving Minitsu's affiliation with the Volkovs and his financial leverage over Devon, to completely discredit Devon's claim. The family court ruled Devon was an unfit father with ties to organized crime. Mia's custody was secured legally and permanently with Aliyah. Next, family bonds healed. Ji-hoon and Sora embraced, tears finally washing away 5 years of guilt and secrecy. Jae-won, seeing the fierce love Ji-hoon showed Aliyah and Mia during the assault, apologized. He finally saw that Aliyah wasn't stealing his father, she was saving him. The 3 children, Mia, Jae-won, and Sora, the sister, promised to be a real, if unusual, family. The final piece of the puzzle came from Madam Kim, who was now fully recovered and seated regally in the still-standing tea room. Aliyah, finally brave enough, showed Madam Kim the locket containing the picture of the black woman who looked like her mother. "Who is she?" Madam Kim smiled, a soft, sad, knowing smile. "That is your mother's sister, Akira," she confessed. "She was my greatest friend, a sister to me, and married to Marcus Thompson, Minitsu, your father." Aaliyah stared. "You knew I was his daughter?" Madam Kim nodded. "I knew everything. The prophecy wasn't about a stranger. It was about union. My biggest fear was that Ji-hoon and Minitsu would destroy each other. The only way to stop the feud was to unite the bloodlines. You were the only one who could do it." Aaliyah reeled. Madam Kim hadn't been searching for a savior, she had been searching for family. She had engineered the mugging to force the two sides to clash through the bond of marriage, turning enemies into family and ending the long, bloody feud. Mind-blowing final twist. Madam Kim engineered everything, knowing Aaliyah's lineage, to unite the clans and end the feud. A week later, the estate was slowly being repaired, but the family was whole. Ji-hoon found Aaliyah in the greenhouse, now entirely rebuilt, and didn't ask her to marry him. He told her, "I love you, Aaliyah Thompson," he said, holding her hands. "You are the chaos I needed to break my chains. You are the light for my son and the future for my sister. You saved us not with a gun, but with your heart. Will you be my wife?" Aaliyah smiled, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "Yes, Ji-hoon Han. Forever." They had a simple, loving ceremony attended by the entire, bizarre, unified Han clan. Madam Kim gifted Aaliyah a new, beautiful, simple diamond ring, saying, "This one is not fated, Aaliyah. This one is earned." The wedding was a simple affirmation of love, justice, and hope winning against the years of darkness. Aaliyah and Ji-hoon stood on the balcony, watching Mia, J1, and Sora laugh together in the setting sun. "It's finally quiet," Aaliyah whispered, leaning her head on Ji-hoon's shoulder. Ji-hoon kissed her hair. "The Han clan is united. The Volkovs are scattered. The ancient secrets are safe." But then, Madam Kim walked up to them, a twinkle in her eye. "There is always a future, my children," she said mysteriously. "The next prophecy speaks of the Dark Guardian's child, one who will possess the wisdom of the Han and the fire of the Thompson. That child will be tasked with protecting the clan not from a gang war, but from a threat that comes from the sea." If you loved seeing Aaliyah and Ji-hoon find their happy ending, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Let us know in the comments below, what kind of threat do you think will come from the sea in the next chapter of the Han clan saga?